Welcome to our evening conversation. Tonight we are hosting Dorcas Tuitoek. She's a PhD candidate at the University of Oxford. She's a valedictorian graduate from the Technical University of Kenya with a bachelor's in chemical engineering. Today we are going to discuss about her journey to Oxford through the Rhodes Scholarship and her study experience all along. So, Dorcas, welcome.
Thank you so much, Omar, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today and to have a chat with you and also to the broader network. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Who is a valedictorian and what does it take to become one?
So a valedictorian is someone who delivers a valedictory speech, and this is normally given to someone who's done well academically overall, like the entire school. So maybe your grades have um, basically you've had the highest grades in that graduation ceremony, and you will be the one to deliver a speech on behalf of all the other graduates and all the students. So yes, that's who a valedictorian is, and I was privileged to be the valedictorian for the 2022 graduation ceremony at the Technical University of Kenya.
That is such a great achievement. And I'm curious to know, did you always intend or hope to become a valedictorian one day?
Ah, no, I didn't. I never intended to be a valedictorian, but I've always grown up wanting to be in spaces where I can speak up and read a speech or just like deliver a presentation. But then this just came, really came in that manner of like being a valedictorian, which I'm very grateful for. So yeah.
So I would be curious to have a further discussion about the valedictory about some time later. But now, as we speak, you are in the University of Oxford. You are doing your PhD, and you started doing a PhD immediately after your bachelor's, or at least without going through a master's degree. And this is coming through one of the most competitive and highest funded scholarships. That's the Rhodes Scholarship, which is held at the University of Oxford. You are in the top university worldwide for the eighth consecutive year. Right now, I'm looking at the statistics from the Times Higher Education Ranking. Did you ever feel threatened, or did you feel like this is going to be a very difficult thing for you to get into, considering the reputation of the university?
I think just as most people usually are, making a bet on a very big um like making a bet on a big thing such as like the Rhodes Scholarship and even applying to Oxford is usually very scary and not an easy thing to do. So yes, it was never in my dreams that fast I would get into to to, to get the scholarship fast, leave alone getting to Oxford, because in as much as I knew that I was capable of I was able, like in terms of my abilities, um we usually have this innate thing of feeling, no, maybe I am not. You look inwards more. Um but then I thank God for the people around me, because they're the ones who actually made me realize you can do it and you can apply and you can get in. So I never expected that I would, but then putting on the bet was a leap of faith and more like a step towards me also just trying to learn. Because when I was putting in the application for the Rhodes Scholarship, I was like, this would be an opportunity for me to actually know how to write better, more like a practice. I didn't go in 100% be like, oh, if I don't get in, or what if I don't get in? I was very open to it, but then I saw it as an opportunity to learn how to write academic statements and show up for the interviews, because I had only attended one interview prior, and I wanted the opportunity to also communicate with people, engage better. And up until now, I still love attending interviews in that manner. So I just wanted an opportunity to show up and grow communicating, interacting with people, meeting new people, networking. Yes, so in as much as I felt threatened to apply for the Rhodes Scholarship and even to Oxford, every step of the way, I saw it as an opportunity to grow. So that also did not make me feel so much threatened, but also the people around me, with the fact that they encouraged me to keep pushing and keep applying, that made things um, a bit easier maybe. It helped me overcome the the fear of feeling so scared about putting on an application or taking that leap of faith. Yeah.
You graduated in March 2022,
Hmm.
and afterwards you joined corporate practice, which we will talk about a little bit later. When did you think about applying for a PhD, and why did you not consider going in directly through a master's degree?
When I joined Deloitte in July 2022, I went into the business analyst, which is the risk advisory department of Deloitte, which was an amazing experience. And I got to learn so much about the business world, how to do analysis, how to do IT risk assessment, and a range of whole other activities that goes on in there, which was very different from what I learned also in undergrad, which was chemical engineering. But I was very flexible to actually take up these learnings, and I was getting comfortable to be in the corporate world and continue learning this new set of skills and progressing my career in that corporate world. I even wanted to do an MBA at some point. But then around this time also, I had just submitted my Rhodes Scholarship application because it opens in June and then it ends on August. So when I joined Deloitte in July, I was closer to submitting my application. So this time I didn't know that through the Rhodes Scholarship, you would be given not only an opportunity to do two masters, but you could also do a PhD directly if you have done any STEM courses. So because I didn't know, I put in two master's applications and I went on my business, getting grinding with Deloitte's work, which I really loved. And then come uh, sometime in October, I think October, when I was called that I had been shortlisted for the final Rhodes interview. And then I show up for the interview, um, and thankfully I get the privilege to be one of the two people going into Oxford. And then this is now where they tell me, did you know you can actually do a PhD directly? Because you did an engineering. Are you aware? And then I was like, no, I didn't know that's a possibility. Then I started now exploring the option of if I'm doing a PhD, what would I do a PhD in? Is it feasible? Is it okay if I don't no longer I put away my hopes of being in the corporate world and those type of things? So it's only until when I got the scholarship. Yes.
So, who is eligible to do a PhD? Sorry, who is eligible for the Rhodes Scholarship? Do I need to be a valedictorian? Do I need a first class, or what do they look for?
So Rhodes Scholarship is a very interesting scholarship. They look for people with leadership skills, but also who have excelled well academically. Um, because of the competition, I think maybe I'm not quite sure. I've not heard of anyone who's gotten second upper and like second upper, but I think first class or even second upper. I'm not quite sure, Joseph. That for sure is a tricky one. But I know you have to excel both academically and also in other ways such as leadership. And quick way to find this also is to I think or maybe we would put up the link because there's eligibility based on different countries and constituencies. Um, Also, at some point, I used to think only if someone is below 22 years or 23, but apparently that also varies. So check out. Don't disqualify yourself based on the age, but look out the requirements from the constituency. They look at when you graduated, when you joined school, and then that will automatically see if you're eligible, but not your actual age. So yeah, that's anyone can be eligible, but then make sure you do well, both balance academics and these other extracurricular activities.
So let's go back and talk a little bit about the application process. And this one, we are going to break it in as granular details as possible. And it is being fashioned in a way that even the person who has never made a single application should understand.
Mm-hmm.
I know by now we are in an internet age, so people should also be able to go and check some of these facts online for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But let's begin with the very simple stage. Do you need to write any essay when you are applying for the Rhodes Scholarship?
So this is it. So the Rhodes Scholarship, you're supposed to write a couple of essays, and I think the first one you need to do is to write your personal statement. So basically, this one, you write about who you are, like like basically people want to know who you are. What do you stand up for? What has made you to this point? What do you want in life? What drives you? Why are you interested in actually even applying for the scholarship? So it's more on the personal side of things. Um, Assuming no one knows you, so they would want you to explain, give them a rough idea of who you are. So that's the first one. And then the second one is the academic statement. So the academic statement, from the word academic, it's geared towards you explaining the academic path that you want to take. This is where you mention that you want to do maybe this particular course, and why do you want to do this particular course. So you give a bit of explanation on why you want to do that. You want to do that. And then you also explain about maybe touch on the academics. So if you're applying to Oxford, you also talk about why Oxford, so the academic sector of things. But then be clear also that these two kind of find relationships between them, because it's you still writing about what you want to do, so it's very much intertwined, and it should like be complementary to each other. And then the last one is not you necessarily writing, but then you need references. You need 5 references. 3 of them should be from your academic, maybe your lecturers in campus, and then 2 others are maybe, I don't know, maybe from your work experience or from your social engagements that you maybe did. So references from those particular places. Yeah, and it's not as hard as it appears, honestly. And I know people come from different backgrounds. For example, I came from a engineering background, which I was not exposed to so much of like writing. But I would say take up take up some of these available resources. This can be in form of your friends, your lecturers, the internet, to actually refine your statement. So have a moment to rethink about who you are, because it's first of all starts from you. So you mostly go into this introspective where you think about what you have done, who you are, what you believe in. Think about them, write them in paper, put it somewhere, and then start the process of refining it further. And don't be limited. Don't limit yourself to the fact that maybe you don't have the expertise in writing. I know it can be very challenging. I really struggled with all my academic statements. I struggled with writing because I don't like writing. So just do what you have to do, but then also pass into other people to help you review and give you comments, because it's still a learning process. Yes.
At what stage do I need the reference letters? Is it during the application, during the interview, or after the interview, or when I get the offer?
Yeah, so you need the references during the application. You submit your application with all the references in. So yes, it's needed before, or yeah, before, during application.
So we have all the 5 individuals. So in your case, you had 3 being your lecturers
Mm-hmm.
and 2 being from your colleagues, like the work you are doing. So we want to understand first,
Mm-hmm.
immediately you mentioned that you had the option to do a master's, two masters
Mm,
to be precise. In fact, what do you mean by two masters? Is it a
mm.
master's after another master's, or you make two applications for two different master's degrees?
So the Rhodes Scholarship gives funding in two ways. If you decide to do the master's way, you can do one master's, because a master's here is just 1 year. So you do one master's, and then after that you can also do the second master's, because it offers 2 years of funding. So you do one master's and then also one master's, like two different master's programs, but one after the other. Or actually, some people do one master's in the first year and then go on to proceed with the second DPhil. Like you do a DPhil after that. DPhil is like PhD after that. Alternatively, if you don't want to do any master's, if you don't want to do the master's route, you can do the PhD way, the DPhil way. So you go into the DPhil directly and you're given funding for 3 years. So if you do the DPhil, funding for 3 years. If you do the master's, 2 years, 1 year master's, 1 year master's. But then, even then, if you also decide, if you go with option two, where you do one master's and then a DPhil, they will fund for your, they will fund for your 1 year master's and then also 2 years of your DPhil. So in total, 3 years of funding. Yeah, for all the options.
How long did it take to hear from is it Oxford or the Rhodes Foundation after
Mm,
you've put in your application?
The the Rhodes Scholarship, after the interview, I remember it was on 9th of October. I got the result the same night, like at 7 p.m. They called me and then they were like, "So you've gotten the scholarship." Well, it was not like that, but yeah, I got the information that particular day. And for the university, the Oxford, it took, if I can remember, I put in the application in December and then I got the feedback around February thereabout. Yeah, I think, yeah, it takes a while.
Let me clarify this. That was during the same year, right?
Um, for the same
When
year,
you were
sorry.
getting feedback from Rhodes.
Yes.
So if we are to break down this process, we are
Mhm,
going to say the first thing you do is you put in your application and submit
mhm,
by
mhm,
the deadline. The
mhm,
next step is you're going to hear from them whether you've made it to the first interview or not.
mhm. Yeah.
Then you're going to have a second interview after the first interview, after which you get feedback, and then you're being told whether you should make an application to the University of Oxford or
Mhm.
not, and whether to choose. And for you, you will have to decide if you're going to choose a master's or a PhD. Am I getting it right?
Yeah. Let me take you through the process. So so between in Kenya particularly, and I think in most also other constituencies, applications generally for the Rhodes Scholarship open in June. So between June and August, the applicant has the opportunity to present their statements, their essays, including their references. And then by 31st, maybe the application is closed. And then the people who will, the people in charge will also look up, like start reading the statements in preparation to coming up with with the shortlisted people who would then show up for an interview. So before the interview, which normally happens somewhere in October, the people who made it to the final list will be called, and then you appear for a pre-selection dinner. So this is where you get to meet with other shortlisted candidates, other roles, alumni, maybe from your constituency. In this case, for me was Kenya. You meet the people who will interview you in the panel the next day, and then you have a meal, you chat, they get to know you more deeply, also as you know them more and what they do, mostly interactions. And then the day after the pre-selection dinner, you show up for the actual interview. You are allocated, each of you, for example, in our time, it was 9 people who were shortlisted for the interview. So we were 9 applicants. And then each of us were given a specified time the following day to show up for the interview. And then after the interview, that same night, they call you and they tell you the outcome of the interview process. And then you get to, this is the advantage now of after getting the scholarship, because you can now decide. If you did not know that you can do a DPhil, they will give you that opportunity to touch whatever path you want. And this can be very different from what you had intended, what you had written in your personal statement. So if you get the scholarship, they will tell you, yeah, now you said you're gonna do this. If you want to do a DPhil, you can still do it. They tell you more about it now if you never had a bit of knowledge about all the possible options you have. So yeah, so you might likely follow what you wrote in your personal statement, but if you want to do something else, there's also that ability to do it. And then getting in, after getting the scholarship, now you forget that, you start the process of applying to Oxford again. So it's like a different thing. So this is in October in that particular year. And then in December are the applications to Oxford starting to open. So for the DPhil, you start applying to the university, different kind of application. So you also need to, sometimes you think, because I've gotten the Rhodes Scholarship, it's done. No, that's what I also thought. I thought I was done writing essays and academic statements, but you also need to apply again to the University of Oxford. And that's a whole other application process also. Yeah. Yes, separate from the scholarship. hmm Yeah. That was in person. Ours was done at Kempinski at that time, but it varies location-wise. Some people had it in the British Embassy at some point in Kenya. It varies very much. So this pre-selection dinner, I at first thought it's another interview, but it's more informal. But I don't know because but these are the people who are going to interview you the next day. But it was a good experience to just have um a, like a session before where you could meet everyone, interact with them before the actual interview. Um, I don't know if it's the actual interview or in any way adds on to the interview process, but I tend not to, because if I did, I think I would. I was just in my own world, and I didn't show up like in an interview. I was just so relaxed. So if I might have gotten disqualified then, so maybe it's not a formal interview per se. Yeah.
What is a constituency?
Oh yeah. So a constituency is so how the Rhodes Scholarship works is they have different. It's like a region basically, a region where there's some funding for scholars to be able to get the scholarship. So for example, there's a Kenyan constituency, there's an Indian constituency. It's all over the world. They prefer to call it constituency just to say this is where uh, funding can go for any Rhodes scholar to come from. So yeah, yeah,
So it's more or less like a constituency somehow, not necessarily, but it can be like the region where you're coming from.
yes, it's a region.
All right. So you've passed your interview.
hmm
Now you're making your application to Oxford. How difficult was it?
Interviews and basically all the applications was quite overwhelming, because now this is when it hits you. People have seen that you're capable, but you start doubting Oxford. You've already researched about it. You're like, oh, maybe, oh, and stuff. But it was quite a whole journey also, because this at this point this thing can really get overwhelming. Can get when you're in a place where you have to fill applications every now and then. You're just like, oh my God, again, I have to do this. But yeah, good thing you can use the same references when you're making your Oxford application. So you don't have to ask again for references. You can still reuse the ones you had. So they will still need an academic statement, I think a personal statement as well, and the references. So if you have the references sorted out, you have to now write a proper academic statement. For me, because I was moving away from my master's and doing a DPhil, I had to come up with a proposal because for DPhil, you have to write a proposal. And I had to do this before December, which was quite a short time. And I remember having to write a 1,000 proposal, and then you have to find a supervisor for the DPhil to make your life easier. That was quite a tough thing to do. So what I did, I tried to come up with the personal statement beforehand, and I started writing. I liaised with my supervisors from undergrad, asking them what they think of this. Um, I had a rough idea of what I wanted to do, but then it wasn't as clear enough to just like present it to a professor in Oxford. So I needed a bit of refinement, and I did that within December. And I was lucky enough to be invited for an interview. So this interview, you come and defend your proposal before your supervisors and another external person, explaining why you want to do this, um, and why did you choose this group, this lab? Yeah, so it was quite a process, very worthwhile because you also get to learn a lot through the process. But generally, with the people that I've spoken to, I think yes, it can be hard to get to Oxford, but then if you liaise with the people who are there are people who already do the particular courses. They have at least some expectations, or they know what these people want. So if you would reach out to people who are already there, it will make the whole process seem very easy. I remember I reached out to Dr. Gladys myself, and then she helped me prepare for the interview and all these steps before because she had gone through the process. So yeah, things are difficult, but sometimes if you just reach out to people, it can be easier. Yeah. Mm.
We have a mutual friend, that's Dr. Gladys. She's very active and she mentors a lot of people. It is good to actually get to understand that you are also one of the people who have come through her hands. And hopefully soon
She
you'll
is
also
my
be
mentor.
holding hands for other people.
Yes, she is my mentor. I have learned so much from her, and I hope to also be like her.
You will.
Yeah.
I mean, like soon, very soon. Now,
Mhm.
did you know exactly this is the research area you want? You had to come up with your own research proposal, and it means you had to come up to find research questions to look into. Or
Mhm.
were these research questions presented to you and you only needed to provide a research proposal? You know, those are two possible options for PhDs.
Mm.
Which option did you have?
Mm. So for my case, I knew I had those two options. So what I did, I looked up for potential supervisors, those who would supervise me in the area of interest that I wanted to. This was around decarbonization, carbon capture, CO2 removal. Those are my areas. So I was looking for people around those areas. Honestly, I took Dr. Gladys' advice. I was searching online who does this, and then I send them random emails. So I had my current supervisor responding to me, and then he was like, let's go into a meeting, let's discuss. This was an informal chat. So during this informal chat, he tells me, what do you want to do? I tell him all my ideas. I'm thinking this and this. Then he told me he wants me to come up with something that I want. So I'm not giving you what you need to do. Think of what you want to do. Come up with a proposal on your own based on the areas that you've discussed, that you've mentioned that you like. So I had to now go after and start actually writing a proposal on my own, and with the help of my lecturers and my friends from undergrad. Yes.
So this is your own research proposal that got accepted. Is it the same thing you're doing, or you changed your mind?
Yes. Good question, Omar. It's not the same thing that I'm doing. Things changed. Things changed. I started my DPhil with that particular proposal, and then in March this year, early March, is when I changed the proposal, although not like to something completely different, but around the same area. So before I was doing calcium looping and carbon capture technologies, which is basically trying to capture CO2 from industries and seeing how it can be more like a system where it captures carbon and also removes it. So it's like a loop. Um, but towards the end of February, which is early March, we realized that maybe this was not feasible anymore, and I changed to steel industry decarbonization. Yes, where I'm now looking at ways to decarbonize the steel industry, which is something that I really like. I have always loved industrial decarbonization, so removal of CO2 from an industrial point of view. Yes, very different. DPhil, PhD, full of uncertainties, but yes, we embrace them fully.
So now you are 9 months. Sorry, you are 1 year into your PhD.
Yes,
How is it
not
so
very
far?
much. Okay, so far. So far, so good. I'm learning a lot about research and about just being able to read a paper and understand. Yeah, and I'm learning also a lot social skills, presentation, communication. It's a whole range of a new set of learning, which is very beautiful to watch. And also the fact that this place is already academically stimulating. Every day you learn something new, which for me I love that because I always want to learn something new every day. So always hungry for knowledge and I get it in Oxford everywhere. Someone tells you of this, you're like, what's that? And then you're like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, tick, I've learned something. So the journey has been great in both fronts. Um, Challenges here and there, of course, having to change a topic, starting afresh and stuff. But overall, I think mm, uh, I'm content and I'm happy. Yeah, and I thank God. Yeah.
So let's talk about the University of Oxford.
Mhm.
I could have wanted to talk about mental health and the life of a PhD student, but I think we can preserve that for another video. But you are an international student.
Mhm.
How well represented is the international community in Oxford? Like, are there is there like a huge number or a small number of international students in your community? Do you feel any different when you're at Oxford?
This was my first time, just like uh, disclaimer, it was my first time coming here to Oxford and I mean, international travel. So it was my first time to experience something that's not usual. So, and I had expectations, of course, of what maybe I would expect in terms of will I find people, community, and those type of things. But to be very honest, I think I have seen the international community here being very present in the sense that I reach out to other people maybe in other places, maybe around Europe, Hungary, somewhere. They say there is not so much of international presence as compared to maybe they see me posting maybe friends and they're like, oh, you have so many people like international people from international community around. I'm like, yeah. So there's the presence of international community as you compare it to other places. There's also like societies like African Oxford Society, um, so many societies for international students, depending on the region where you come from. So you get that support in that sense. You also get support from like maybe the scholarship that you have, but that's not to say it's as easy in the sense that now that you have it, you have everything. No, it still boils down to you. Sometimes you have your own understanding of things and understanding of the environment and the place, and that also has to sit in with you differently. So you find yourself also experiencing very specific things as an individual, which can take a whole ton of um, your level of approaching Oxford and your academics. It can take a toll on you, in as much as it's also helping you grow. So I would say there's support, but then there's also personalized, sort of like you have to embrace it. It has to sit within you, and then you grow and you actually accept. It's more like an acceptance of where you are in your environment, which for me took a lot of time also. Up until now, I think I would say I am kind of settled because it's a journey. But there's a lot of support for sure. There's a lot of support from the community around. Yeah,
I
I don't know.
I
I don't
want
know
to
if I've
apply
answered.
for Rhodes
Mm,
Scholarship one day
mm,
when I'm confident enough that I can do a PhD.
mm,
And I hope to get funded as you are, fully funded.
mm,
What do you mean by being fully funded? And
mm.
do you think, now having lived in the UK for a whole year, do you think this funding is sufficient for you to live off as a student comfortably?
So if you are thinking of applying to Oxford and even through the Rhodes Scholarship particularly, I would urge you to do, because this is you're given funding for your fees. Your tuition fees are catered for, and it's just lately that I realized that the fees for international students are quite a lot. So imagine someone banking on your ability, but just giving you fees for school. That's a lot. That's a whole experience. And in addition to that, they also give you living stipend. So day to day, like paying for your rent, for your room, some stipend, a bit of money to cater for your survival here. Um, so I would say the money is if you really count it as if you're someone who's reasonable enough, you would say this is a generous amount of money that you can be able to live and do your studies, which is essentially what you someone comes here to do. So yes, it's the stipend is a generous amount, I would say, enough for you to survive and live. So don't feel scared of if you would be able to survive in the UK. It's possible.
Is your flight, visa, medical surcharge, and everything else catered for?
Yeah, yeah, it's catered for your flight, your visa, anything that is just like they literally cater everything. You just show up. Even when you land, they cater for your Uber or something to take you to your college. They do also offer mental health opportunities. Like they offer so many other things which are beyond your expectations, or something that you just need. You would be sure that they would help you sort out whatever it is. So it's very much, yeah, it's a good scholarship. It's a good scholarship. Yeah.
Let's talk about your first day in Oxford.
hmm
Do you remember the day?
I remember it was on 20th of September.
What
Yeah.
happened?
So I took a flight on the 19th of September from Kenya. Coming here, I arrived, I think, because I had a stopover in Dubai. And I remember I arrived here in the early morning. So just landing at the airport, Heathrow, was like, what? Where am I? Like, this place is huge. People are moving right, left, right, and center. Everyone is just moving, moving. It's a big place. I was like, what? So this is it.
Yeah, I
Um,
know. I know Heathrow can be a shocking place sometimes. Like everybody's just minding their business and everybody looks like they're going somewhere.
I know. So it was like so surreal to see things that even the coach buses, the ones I've just seen like in the television. Now you see it in real life. You're like, oh, okay, wow. So I was like so much happy that I couldn't explain why I am here and like why. all these things happening. Filled with so much gratitude, I was happy. And then came to Oxford, seeing this place that is very calm, old buildings, very beautiful, very it's giving like very international, like very academic. Like people would just read left, right, and center. For me, what has not touched with me till now is the fact that people really like reading. Like people are so much academically invested. They read left, right, and center. You know, Kenya, you if you even see someone reading along the bus or the train, you're like, hey, this one is so serious. But here it's like a norm. In the restaurants, people will just read work. So that was the first thing I noticed, that people just like reading generally. But I was happy to be here. Yeah, the weather was sunny in the morning and the afternoon it was raining. I was like, what's up with this weather? So I also got the British weather the first day. So yeah, that's summing my whole day, maybe.
So
Yeah.
you had your first winter ever,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm saying that because
Mm-hmm.
you said you had not traveled outside Kenya
Mm-hmm.
before that. So you had your first winter ever. Besides
Yes.
the first 2 days of excitement when it's snowing, do you think you like winter?
I was so excited for winter because I did not experience it. Like I was so excited for winter. I was very ready. I bought all the cool jackets, the heavy jackets. So I even remember that part of the reasons why I remained in December. I was just like, I want to experience this winter so that I can have a story to tell. So it started with an excitement, not until it got worse. And then I was like, no, we need to stop this now. Have had the experience. Now let's go back. Let's now just have proper weather.
It started
So
overdoing.
it started overdoing. Yes. So winter was an experience. But yeah, one thing I've realized also is when you have people around, even like the weather or people complain of like so many things, but then you find that if you can have people to talk about it and even chat and like laugh about all these things, it makes it very much easy to just go through all these experiences and it makes it worthwhile. Yeah. So that was my winter experience.
That was your winter. You are very nice. So it is on a spectrum. It began with a lot of excitement. Then you are like, oh, not this. Then you started getting used to it. Are you looking
Yes,
forward to this
but
year's winter?
no, I am not. I am not. I am not. I am not. I keep
So
telling
fortunate
people
for you. We
I'm
still
not
have two
ready
more
for
months.
winter. I need to take advantage of this sunshine. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did you start your research?
Mm. I started my research in October last year. Um, that's when because it's not taught, I started meeting my supervisor in October, meeting them every week. I have two supervisors, so I meet them every week. We have a chat of what I'm doing and continuous updates. And up until now, I had not done anything like written whatsoever. But after 1 year of your DPhil, you get to do something called a transfer of status. I didn't know this before, but then when you're accepted, you are a probationary research student. Like you're not fully a PhD student. So after 1 year, you need to prove that you can be a DPhil student at Oxford. And that entails you writing up a written work saying this is what you have done within the last year. So from October all the way to this August, what have you done? Show it in terms of documentation. Show it also in like if you've done experiments, what do you have any results? If you've done simulation work or modeling, do you have any results? So it involves proving to your assessors that this is what you've been able to learn. These are the skills that you got from for the past couple of months, and these skills you hope to use them. These models or like this new software that you've learned, you hope to use them to take your research further in this direction. So you explain what you have done, but then you also need to say where you are now and where you would see yourself in the next 3 years. You give details of what you will do in terms of every research question that you hope to continue pursuing in the next couple of years for your DPhil journey. And then they get to assess you, and then they see if you um you've gained enough knowledge or independence to be able to continue with your DPhil, or if not. So at the moment, I'm doing that bit of like transfer. I'm preparing myself towards transferring as a probationary research student to now becoming a PhD candidate proper. So most people also don't know this.
What is a PhD, in your opinion?
It's you carrying this research, you're trying to find out more about a particular area of research, but it's you immersing yourself in it and in the field, investigating, more like just a quest. Like you see, like your treasure hunt. So you're hunting for treasure, but then it's on you're doing it on yourself, by yourself, and it's less of and I'm coming from like undergrad where you do assignments together, blah blah blah. You get a section like you prepare presentation, but you only handle the last part where you just say, oh, so for this you conclude. But then this one you not only conclude, you need to know everything from the start. So you are taking a project from the start. You're hunting this treasure, and you have to start from the word go as you maneuver through getting all this knowledge and winding up and down and just maneuvering around as you aim for the treasure hunt. It is a beautiful journey because I've gotten to also learn that it's less of academics, but also more of a personal growth. The skills, social skills that you learn, and I have taken it up as an opportunity for me to also just grow as a person, which I would not have gotten it maybe when I was working or somewhere else. Because you're a student, but then you're also learning, so you're getting so many aspects of of like you're getting so many things attached to it, and not just the quest for the treasure hunt. But while at it, you get to learn more about people, places you travel, you visit conferences, communicate, socialize, interact, learn, feel, wake up, sleep, so many kind of things.
I understand you are in a research lab where you get to work in an environment where you are working with different professionals, people who have been through several master's degrees. Some people are even coming in for the second PhDs. I don't know if you have such people in your lab. Do you think you coming directly from your undergraduate makes you any different from somebody who has been through their master's degree?
Yes, I think it does. There's a whole difference when you do a master's before. You have an upper hand, if I would say, because I noticed that when I came in, and mind you, I had been away from school for like 1 year. So catching up, even in the sense of putting yourself in your mindset into the actual reading mode, it was quite hard. Also coming from a place where maybe in as much as you're exposed to research, it's not very fun. It's not proper research. It's 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 more like you did this thing, but then you haven't learned as much enough to prepare you for a PhD. So if someone who's done a master's or even a PhD, you see them getting into this thing, already publishing papers, already going for conferences, already doing so much. But then I think for me, I'm in this phase where all this time I've been learning. I've been learning how to do referencing. I've been learning how to do write-ups, how to do an essay, how to prepare, how to do a conference presentation, how to do a poster presentation. While for them, maybe they find it very easy because it's something that they've been used to do. even like reading a paper, you would find yourself spending so much time reading for a paper, but for other people, they do quick fast. But this is to say that everything really takes a bit of time because also me, when I joined, I felt like I was a bit like there was that gap, but now that gap is slowly coming to like it's lowering. So if anyone who has an experience, of course, they would have an upper hand. And then for someone else who doesn't have, it just takes a bit of time to get there. Yeah, but it makes a whole difference.
Thank you for that very insightful conversation, Dorcas. Maybe we may want to ask for a parting shot for the incoming applicants and the prospect of PhD applications. What would you say to somebody who is currently thinking about it or at the application stage?
Yes, I would say for those who are thinking about it, please stop thinking about it. Just make the application. It is very worthwhile. Just do it. You will learn so much about yourself and about other people. So please go for it. And for those who are applying, please reach out to people for help if you need help, if you want guidance. People are always very ready to support and to assist wherever they can. So reach out. And I wish you very best of luck. Like put a bet on it. It's never in vain. I mean, it's a worthwhile journey. Yeah.
How can I find you on socials? Are you on social media? How can I get to connect with you and interact with you?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am Dorcas Tuitoek. On Instagram also, you can find me there, Dorcas Tuitoek, Twitter, Dorcas Tuitoek. Yes, happy to interact and share a bit of insights on whatever questions you might have. Yeah.
So that was Dorcas Tuitoek, and this is the Management Diary. See you again in the next episode. Bye bye.